We just got hooked up on we got a double fish going here. A little bit nicer fish. I'm going to show you another technique that's very popular here at Irvine Lake. We're using a bobber technique with Flylined crawler on it with no weight. And again, what we want to do is it's better to have a longer rod, like a 7.5 foot or an 8 foot rod with a reel that can handle 4-pound test. What you want to do is find a rod that's got a parabolic bend, an ultralight, a medium light rod that is from anywhere from 2 to 6 pound or 1 to 6 pound test for that technique. What you want to do is, again, I have 4-pound test, and I have what is a actual fly hook. It's a light wire hook that's a size 10 or 12, and it's perfect for fly lining a crawler out. And what you want to do with a bobber, a float, and a crawler outfit is, instead of having a short leader, which I like having at least a 4 to 6 foot leader. That's why a longer rod is also essential to casting a long leader. And usually you adjust your leader to the depth of water that you fish. And usually with a bobber and crawler technique, you want to fish shallower water, or when the trout are up in clearer water in the water column. Say like in, it's good in 15 feet or less, but I like to fish it at least in 12 feet or less. What I like to use is, it doesn't matter what bobber you like to use, but I like to use that size there with a little bit of rattle in there. What it is, it's actually extra weight for casting further away from the boat, long distance. The further away from the boat you are, it is a lot better. And it also aids into casting into the wind with the little bit of BB shot that they have in there. You can cast it into the wind, which is less effort and a lot easier on you by the end of the day. You want to push on the black spring to where the hook on the bottom end of the bobber is exposed. You want to take the 4-pound test and wrap it 3 to 4 times. The reason being is that when you wrap it just once and you're casting, the line will slide back and forth and create abrasions and nicks in the line. What you want to do is have that line stationary by wrapping it 3-4 times around the shank of the hook at the bottom end of the bobber. That way, when you are casting it, it has less friction on the line that creates nicks and bad spots in the line. Okay guys, what I'd like to do is take a crawler and pinch it in half and thread it through the opening of where you pinched it in half, and just slide it on down about 1/4 of an inch. Again, with this technique, you want it a straight, more natural looking worm. The way it's moving in the water, if you ball it up, it's not going to be able to move or swim like it does naturally in the water. The way it's moving now, it's going to do the same thing when you're in the water and your worm's floating below your bobber. It's attracting, that little bit of a movement will attract the trout, and that's what you want. What you want to do when you're casting, you want to make sure that the bobber and the line are not looped. With a long leader like that, they have a tendency to loop and make a knot in your line. So just make sure everything's line out straight up and down, and whip it out there. Kind of gentle cast. You don't have to cast it far from the boat, especially if you're fishing close to the bank. And what you want to do here, just let it sit there. You can just let it sit there. This is a good technique when you're drift fishing or when the wind's blowing. You can cast downwind. You can either set it down like you're bait fishing, set it in a rod holder, or set it down in your boat. Okay, with what I like to do after I make a long cast, I'd like to reel the slack in and let the bobber either sit there just floating for a minute, 2 minutes at a time. This is a technique that takes a lot of patience. What you want to do is just keep an eye on your bobber. It'll slowly drift away slowly when you get bit, but what I'd like to do is just slowly work the bait in by just dragging it. And every now and then you might want to pop it, give it a little bit of movement. But what's attracting the trout to the bait is it's just floating there in the water column, in the upper layers of the water column, to where the trout are free swimming by, are picking up that movement. And what you want to do after you get bit, you don't want to set the hook right away. You want to let the fish take the bait, take the bobber down, reel the slack, reel down, reel the slack out of the line, and let the line come tight and the rod start to load up before you set the hook. We just got hooked up on we got a double fish going here. A little bit nicer fish.